service. The Pink Girl provides pickup and delivery with no additional cost. Models, lease return repairs, and insurance claims. Your smart choice for vehicle repair, the Paint Girl. Call 954-691-7024. That's 954-691-7024.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. For our guest, call 888-565-1470. Now, let's get ready as our guest hits the airwaves and informs us about what we need to know on Tell Us Your Business.
Hello and welcome to Tell Us Your Business. My name is Kristen Knopfsinger and I have a company called KRI Image Consulting. I'm here today with Leslie Glickman of Yoga Journey, and she happens to be one of my clients, and a very special one at that, because quick story, Leslie was my first yoga teacher 20 years ago at Michael's Body Scenes, which was one of the businesses that she'll tell you about. When I met Leslie 20 years later, she was in the process of rethinking this last journey that she took into creating Yoga Journey and how she would extend her own brand beyond that. But first, I just want Leslie to introduce herself and tell everybody how you came to Boca and what kind of businesses did you build in Boca, where you started from, and kind of your journey into where you are now.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. I am originally from New York, and when I was in New York City, I was working in the advertising industry. I worked for a really big firm, and in relocating to South Florida, I decided that I didn't really want to go back into the corporate world. So I really began spending a lot of time in my passion, which was health and fitness. And my husband and I partnered with Michael, Papa Michael, and we were owners of Michael's Body Scenes, where we met for about 13 years. We also developed two other companies, which were APTA, which is Advanced Physical Therapy. We are no longer partners with any of those, but both of those businesses are still thriving in the community. And so I moved from fitness to the physical therapy and now into the yoga. And I think the yoga really is my passion. So it's been a really beautiful growth. I feel like everything I've ever done has always been for the betterment of people, to have them live a healthier, happier life. And I feel like the yoga is the most inclusive of all of them. So it's where I really where I want to be.
You found your calling.
I did.
And a nice story about Michael's. It's so funny because it was back in 2000, I want to say, and I at that time was pretty into working out. I was hanging out with my friend Stacey Haggerty all the time. Hello, Stacey, if you're listening. And she was like, she started doing these crazy poses when we would work out together at her house, and she would do these like. To me, I wasn't real familiar with yoga. So to me, I'm like, what are you doing, acrobatics? What's going on over there? And she's like, I just started taking this power yoga class with this amazing teacher at Michael's Body Scenes, Leslie, and I really want you to come with me. And I was like, there is no way I'm going to be able to do that.
You were scared.
You are crazy. She was doing headstands and like just, the wild things that might have happened back in 2000. And so I was like, all right, I'll come try it out. She was like, try it. And I was like, okay, I've always heard about yoga. I really want to try it. I've always been in athletics and I was always in sports and dance. So I was like, that might be something I really like. So I came and I went to a class, and the first time I held down dog for 5 breaths, I wanted to die. I thought I was going to die, actually.
A lot of people say that.
It was very hard. And I was like watching you go through your routine and go through the class, and I'm like, how does she do this? She's Superwoman. She's incredible. Oh my gosh. And I just had so much admiration for you and what you were doing and the way you led the class through, and it was just such an incredible experience, despite me feeling like I was actually going to die on the floor. I did feel that overwhelming, first yoga kind of euphoria where you get that, wow, I feel amazing right now, even though like 20 minutes ago I wanted to die. But, I knew from watching other people in the class and watching you that wasn't going to always be the case. So I came to realize that, yoga is a practice. You know, it's something that you practice continually. Now, tell us a little bit about how you found that practice and then how you crafted it and created it into your own practice, which you teach these days in your own business.
Well, I've been teaching over 20 years, probably close to 25 years. So my own journey in yoga has sort of been the foundation for the way the business has developed. So I think when I was younger and more in the fitness world, the practice was way more physical. And as I continued on through like deepening my own practice and really studying with amazing teachers, I've had tremendous role models and mentors. And I really feel like there is a reason why the practice has lasted thousands of years. And I have come to really respect and want to acknowledge the traditions and the philosophies that go along with the physical practice. So my moving away from the other businesses was actually to create some integrity around the yoga practice and to be able to create a space where I could teach it, I feel like in a way that would be respected by the people who have come before me.
Now, just to let the listeners know, not to name drop or anything, but a few of those teachers are actually really well known in the yoga community and in like a general community, like Rodney Yee, who actually is the Prana Sleep guy. That's what everybody would know him as.
A lot of people know his face.
You know him a lot separately and a lot more intimately than the Prana Sleep guy. You studied with him. Is there anyone else or anything you'd like to expand upon there as far as your teachers?
Well, I think I've had some really big influencers. I've watched the way they've practiced, the way they've handled their careers, the way in which they deliver the practice. And so I think all of my teachers have been quite eloquent, quite knowledgeable, and they each have found their own authentic voice to deliver the practice with. And I think those are the things that have been the most important for me. And so Rodney's not the only one. I have a couple of others, that one who kind of keeps it kind of raw and edgy, because that's who he is, and that sets another kind of example for me to be able to have a sense of humor. And another, probably my closest teacher and mentor is Sean Korn, who I've just spent the last 2 weeks training with her, and she just speaks it in a different language than the average teacher. And I think like she has the spirit about her that we can use the yoga as an activism for like actually taking a stand on how we live our lives on this planet. And as yoga teachers, actually using our platforms to set an example for how we can be taking the yoga off the mat and really living it in life.
Yes, yes. I definitely have seen that through her and the things that she shares on her, on her public channels. So, and I can see how you bring that into your own practice in your own studio and your own journey. So that being said, tell us about Yoga Journey Studio and how, I guess, maybe you came about that name being that you took a little bit from the entire journey that you took up until that point to create the ideal yoga journey for Leslie Glickman.
Yeah, thank you. I think the yoga was just a natural next step. The studio was not my dream. Like I wasn't like, I want to grow up one day and be a yoga studio owner. I just felt like it was the natural progression because coming out of the other businesses, I had already been teaching so many years in the community and cultivated a really beautiful following. And then I was sort of freelancing. I was teaching at a couple of different places. I was renting space to do teacher trainings. I was really kind of, I felt like I was wearing a lot of hats. And needing a place to kind of hang that hat was what inspired me to want to open the studio. So I had a hub for all of these other pieces of the business that I had been cultivating. I had a lot of moving parts. I started doing retreats around the world. I had the trainings going on. I was hosting workshops. I was cultivating these community classes and also holding regular weekly classes. And so I felt like we needed to sort of pull it in so that I could make more of a sense of community and connect all of the people that were actually participating in all of these different pieces of the pie and create a hub where we could all be one together.
Yes. And one thing I love that you told me one time was that at that time you were looking for that yoga community that you could immerse yourself in, and there really wasn't one, a solid one in South Florida. So
Not
you created
25
it,
years ago, yeah.
didn't you?
Exactly.
And now I can actually say, and we, you know, anybody in this South Florida community can say that you've touched pretty much every studio around here. There's not a teacher that you'll run across that hasn't heard of your name or known who you are or taken a class with you or actually trained with you. And I think that's quite an accomplishment. You've covered the bases in South Florida, and that really led up to where you got to presently, or in 2017, so to speak, in a way, because Yoga Journey opened when?
We're in year 6.
And where is Yoga Journey?
It's located in the Wyndham Hotel in Boca, which is on Glades and 95. It's the same home as Trend Tea and Farmer's Table.
And it's such a cool space because it's actually within a hotel.
Yes.
So it makes you part of the tourism industry,
Absolutely.
essentially.
Yeah.
Because people that come through that Boca Wyndham, which is known for being a wellness-minded hotel, get this amazing teacher, and all of these amazing teachers, because you've built your team under you, at their fingertips when they get to stay at a hotel.
Yeah.
So the fast forward, then you met me. And when you met me, you were looking to find one PR, but also somebody to help you with your marketing and with maybe the rebranding, the evolution of Yoga Journey, because the brand that you had created was now about 7 years old, 6 years old, I guess, at the time.
Oh, the Yoga Journey brand itself was actually way older than that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I had been using Yoga Journey as my brand.
Okay.
And that's how we developed the studio, and all of the other things fell under Yoga Journey. When you and I crossed paths, I had actually realized that my career as an individual was also growing, and that when I started to do things on a more national and international basis, I needed to establish a name of my own, so that in terms of search and all of these other social media, that I needed to be found as myself and not as my company. And so I needed to have an identity for Leslie Glickman, the yoga teacher, and also Yoga Journey, this amazing community that we've created.
Right.
And so you helped me to kind of split them into their own identities, but also merge the
two to work
integrity
together.
and there is so much of it that is really the one and the same. But they also needed to have identities of their own.
Right. And it was really kind of at that time when we first talked, it really spoke to me that you're so humble and you're such a giving, humble individual, that you're so much about the community and you're so much about giving back that you kind of didn't even realize that your brand was being buried beneath the brand you created under Yoga Journey. And so it was exciting to me to be able to bring out Leslie Glickman from Yoga Journey and let her shine a little bit. And sometimes you need somebody else to do that for you, which is why PR and marketing can be important sometimes, no matter how slow of a process it can be sometimes. And we can get to that in a little bit. But
we knew it would take some time.
Yes, and anything worth doing, anything worth doing takes time. So we really we worked very hard on making that an efficient and very qualified separation, so that Leslie Glickman would be able to stand on her own and be represented in all the places that she needed to be represented in, as well as Yoga Journey having the respect and the stature that it had. And just before we cut for commercial, because we'll get to the actual branding process, but just before we get to that, you do have your own method that I wanted you to talk about, and that method is?
The methodology that I use in everything?
Yeah, the pause.
Oh, yeah, my pause, breathe, notice, feel. It's these 4 little words that actually, if you carry them with you in any situation, it's going to allow you to sort of ground yourself and make choices, decisions, thought processes from a place that's steady.
Exactly.
It's really, really important.
So important to pause, breathe, notice
and
feel. And she brings it into everything she does. And I know that anybody that practices with you just takes that element and takes it with them into their daily lives. So I think we're going to cut for commercial, and we will be back with that wonderful branding process and how we went about that.
Thank you so much.
Please please welcome a new sponsor to the show. It's AMP2 TV, the first and only internet network that's truly plugged in. When you're looking for a full-service internet television production company, discover AMP2 TV, a full-service production company that can provide all streaming videos in studio or remotely. They offer web page development, and they use all the latest platforms to help make your business selling points more powerful. They can do remotes and live streaming, as well as tape productions. Let AMP2 TV handle all of your television production needs. Choose from a variety of creative TV and radio packages and see why AMP2 TV works with many major companies, including Comcast, Bravo, and Fox 29, as well as individuals and businesses of all types and sizes. To see samples of their work or to find out more, visit their website at amp2.tv. That's AMP2.TV. Or call them at 1-866-224-5422. That's 866-224-5422.
You are listening to Tell Us Your Business, where our invited guests share all the knowledge of their business and how important it is what they do in our community. If you want to be part of the conversation, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and tell us what's on your mind. Now, back to Tell Us Your Business.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many.
Hello, welcome back to Tell Us Your Biz. My name is Kristen Knopfsinger. I have a marketing and PR consulting company called KRI Image Consulting, and I'm here with one of my clients, one of my faves, Leslie Glickman of YogaJourney.com and LeslieGlickman.com, and we are back to talk about the process of rebranding when you create a very beautiful, functional, flourishing business and you kind of have to separate yourself out of it and then create the brand for your own self when you are a personality like Leslie is in the South Florida community, and hopefully nationally and in the world, internationally as well.
Thank you.
Is what we hope to create for her. So I just want to go through that branding process for people, because a lot of people don't understand how complicated that can be sometimes, and how and what a long process it can be
I was
to
just gonna
really
say,
find.
how much time do we have?
Yes, exactly. I know, right? We only have 15 minutes, but sometimes I especially when I go on, because I go on this journey a lot with people, the rebranding process, and it's different every time. It's not always, it's not, definitely not in one box.
Right.
You can't close it in. You can't, I can't tell people it's going to take this much time or this much time. It really depends on the project. Yeah. So with you specifically, you created this wonderful business. You're really well known in the community. However, you were kind of buried within your own brand that you created. And so when we started to take Leslie Glickman out of the Yoga Journey brand, but create its own brand that worked in conjunction with Yoga Journey, what were kind of the steps that you felt led you in that process, and maybe what directed you to what you currently have now?
Well, I was really deeply immersed in this community, and while I was raising my kids, and I felt like this was my home base, so it was really a beautiful thing to be deeply immersed within my company and just have my company's name, which is Yoga Journey, and it was like everyone associated Leslie Glickman and Yoga Journey. But the last few years, I've been starting to sort of broaden my reach and expand into other markets. So as I even expand throughout South Florida and then move into a more national and international platform, I needed to have an identity that was all my own, so that when I was applying to conferences or other things that were opportunities that were there for me, I had to create an identity so that if they were looking for me, that they could actually find me.
Right.
Like if they knew my name, if someone had referred me and they wanted to invite me, like they weren't going to find me if they started looking for Yoga Journey. You know what I mean? They'd be looking for Leslie Glickman.
Right.
So I needed to have a social media presence. I needed to have a website of my own, and start to find a way to not step out of completely, but to stand beside the business that I already had. Because I still live here, and I'm still here, week in and week out. I'm still like cultivating the community and doing my work here, nurturing my students here, and teaching teachers here. So this is still my home base, but I feel like there needed to be some way for me to be found as myself. And so that's where you came in, because that was an interesting process. I wanted to create a look that was cohesive between both companies. I wanted us to be able to be easily recognized, that we were associated with each other, that I wasn't going to just be this new separate thing.
Yeah.
leave the other old one alone. So I put a fresh new look onto the existing company and then matched my brand to the new look. So everything became fresh and new at the same time.
Right.
I think it was exciting for everybody.
Yes, and we really did. I mean, I have to say, if I do say myself,
can,
myself, you know,
right.
we really did bring in a really fresh, modern, contemporary look to both brands, and both brands stand alone just fine as well as they do together.
Exactly.
And so, applaud both of us and all of our teams.
Yes.
You know, everybody
A
that we
lot of
worked
people
with. A lot of people
went
worked
into
on
making
this.
that
A
happen.
lot of opinions.
I
a
have
lot
to
of
do shout out to Bree.
yes,
'Cause
Bree. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know how this whole thing would have happened without her. So
Bree is Leslie's assistant.
Yes.
and the most magnificent person. She's like the kindest, sweetest. Of course, from where is she from? North Dakota or South Dakota? South Dakota. Of course, that's why she's just like an angel. And so I've told Leslie I've told you several times, like you are so lucky to have her because she's incredible.
know.
She's a wonderful person.
Yeah.
And has really great taste as well.
Yes, she does.
So let's talk about the elements of your brand,
Okay.
and obviously starting at the heart chakra that we kept from the former Yoga Journey brand. You had a version of that heart chakra, and we turned it into the current one that it's now. And if anybody's listening, you can go to yogajourney.com and leslieglickman.com and check out the two websites that we created and the brand that we created and see what we're talking about.
So that green symbol that's in the middle of both logos has some deep meaning for me. And my whole mission, as far as the yoga goes, has been to create community. I felt when I was new on this yoga path that I had to always go outside of South Florida to kind of cultivate, get my education and to be connected to other yogis. Like 25 years ago, there wasn't much happening here. And as you mentioned earlier, I felt like it was my mission to create a community here so that we could all be growing and learning and supporting each other together. So the symbol, that green symbol, is part of a 7 symbols. That's a system called the chakras. And the chakras really are a whole nother story that we don't have time to go into
She
today.
just taught a 2-day course on the chakras.
I
So we
did.
could be here for 2 days.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know
won't
like
go
how much
there.
radio time we have.
I
but
won't go there. But the symbol is of the heart chakra. And the energies and the meanings behind that heart chakra are really all about connection, collaboration, cooperation, love, union, unity, forgiveness, love and grief, and there's always a shadow side and a light side to everything. So it's all of that, and it's how the beautiful part of how we need each other. You know, how people come together. And so I wanted all of these as my core values, the integrity and the connections and the collaborations. I felt like everything that means something to me in terms of the business is what's represented in that symbol, in that green symbol. So how could I have chosen anything other?
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, the visual aspects of the brand, choosing those colors and that color palette. I remember one of the first times we sat together with my partner, one of my graphic visual partner, Molly Green, and how we walked through the colors that you liked, the colors that you wanted to choose, and we kind of chose that beautiful like taupe kind of color. And then how did we go through choosing that green color?
Well, the heart chakra itself is green. So when we started looking at it in a variety of different mediums, we didn't even realize how many greens there could possibly be. And I
Thousands.
Yes. And so, we wanted a pure green. We didn't want a green that had too much yellow or a green that had too much blue. And we really wanted to find one that felt comfortable, easy on the eye, that didn't take you in too much of a direction, like too deep or too heavy or too bright and too airy. So we really looked, and we worked really, really hard to find. We ended up picking the Pantone color of the year from the year before.
We actually
didn't even
did
realize
accidentally,
that, right?
and it was funny. It was just I think Molly picked that up, and
Right.
and
so
when
obviously,
you,
it was a well-liked, well-received color, a shade of green.
Yep.
So, it was just really important to have it be true to the symbol that it is, but also have it be something that people could connect with and something that would be timeless.
Right, right.
You know?
No, I think we really like accomplished that with it. And that Pantone color of the year, I remember somebody showing it to me actually like way earlier when we were talking about it, Molly and I, because we talk about colors a lot.
Right.
Molly brings that to the table because
Yeah.
I'm
She's
more
amazing.
like the visual. I can do concepts and things like that. When it actually comes to like colors and brand standards and what like different fonts mean and how the way you arrange them means and like
Yeah.
where that comes from, like Molly's an expert and I admire her so much for it. I really rely on her expertise in that sense.
Yeah.
And I remember her showing me this color and it was like a very like, I think it was called like a soft emerald. And I was like, that's the most beautiful color ever. So it's just really funny that color is the one that spoke to you
Right.
and that we ultimately ended up choosing.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see those when we did something big. By the way, Leslie does a 2,000 person yoga class every New Year's Day
Big
at
community.
Meisner Park. Huge yoga community, free class New Year's Day. And we did tattoos this year, which was such a cool, brilliant idea by Leslie. And that green chakra we did in a metallic, and that was actually where we introduced the logo for the first time.
Yeah.
Was on New Year's Day at that class, and everybody was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful!" Because it was just it stuck out, and it was something that's only yours that you can remember, and that's what we try to accomplish with branding. That we can choose something for a business that can not only represent the business and the business parts of it, but the soul and the spirit of the business. And in this case, I really very proud, I have to say, that we got that and we're just moving with it and growing with it and building with it. But that's what a great brand does,
Right.
is it allows you to evolve with it.
I was just going to say that so many big companies start out with these logos that are so complex. And then as they stand the test of time, you watch the evolution of their logo and their brand, and they simplify, and it becomes less and less. So I feel like that's part of what's going on for us. We're almost 25 years in, and we went from a more complex look to this more simple, beautiful, clean representation of what we're doing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yay. So let us know what's up for you next, where we can hope to see Leslie Glickman next.
Okay.
What do you have on your plan, on your schedule for this rest of this year, I guess?
I'm leaving Thursday, actually, for Kenya. I'm taking a
Amazing.
group. So this is part of that international work that I do. I'm taking a group to Kenya to do a safari and yoga out into the Masai Mara. We're also going to do some service work while we're there. We'll spend a few days in Nairobi doing yoga with the local community. I have a lot on the table. Another beautiful trip coming up in Spain in September. And teacher training this summer and something big again on January 1st. So save the date. You could even go online to somethingbigyoga.com, check out all the pictures and everything from last year, and definitely come be a part of it with us this year.
Thank you so much, Leslie.
Yeah.
We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kristen.
And I think we are still on the air.
Oh,
So check
hey.
out leslieglickman.com when you get a chance. yogajourney.com.
Thank you so much, Kristen.
somethingbig.com.
Right?
somethingbigyoga.com.
Right. Are we still on?
And we will wrap it up.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much for having me, Kristen.
Thank you. Thanks for all of that.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
This has been Tell Us Your Business, where a special guest comes on every week and tells us what they do. All shows can be seen on amp2.tv, and if you wish to be a guest, call 866-224-5422 and tell us about your business. That's 866-224-5422. This has been an amp2.tv production.